They killed Steve. It's a mid-episode. I don't care what you say. Unless you're bringing in Steve 2.0, I don't want to hear it. I'm just playing. Episode 3 of Alien Earth released 2 days ago. I'm a bit late to this, but let's talk about it. So this episode in its entirety really focuses on the synthetics and how they go about doing things, knowing that now they're in the thick of all this. Each one of them staying loyal to the company or trying to figure out where they belong in all this. Whether that be an identity crisis, being used by outside parties, or only having one objective, that being saving their brother. I think each synthetic having their own sub-story aside from Wendy is very integral to this season, strictly because it's not just a linear thing altogether. For instance, Wendy wanting to save her brother by all means necessary, while also having some sort of connection with the xenomorphs that causes her to basically lose her mind. Whether you want to chalk that up to just something else entirely that hasn't been mentioned, or she's going to become a xenomorph queen hybrid, I don't know. But eventually that's going to have to be explained. Nibs having an entire identity crisis, unsure of how to go about doing things, especially after her encounter with that weird eyeball thing, having many questionable thoughts as to what she should do next. Curly wanting to replace Wendy as Boy Cavalier's favorite, thinking that Wendy is defective because she only ever cares about her brother, wants to be the one that's the best for Boy Cavalier. And I know that entire instance is going to be interesting. There's some underlying tones that we just don't know about yet, and I'm interested to see where that goes. Probably the most important one out of all of them being the fact that Slightly is being used by Morrow, the same synthetic we see that came from the crashed ship. Now back on the topic of Steve, this dude was done dirty. By who, you may ask? Well, none other than Wendy. She ends up lopping the thing's head off after being trapped in a storage container with it. Not before she collapses in the process, basically being rendered broken, if you will. But one of the more interesting scenes during this episode is when both Wendy and her brother are trapped in the place that Wendy found her brother. She frees him and they're about to leave, only to be encountered by Steve the Xenomorph himself. And instead of attacking, he instead looks at Wendy, backs up, and leaves. Usually this could be one of two things. One, it knows that it's a synthetic and won't attack it. Or two, and narratively speaking this might be the case, this thing knows something about her that she doesn't even know about herself. Like I stated previously, Wendy has something going on in her mind. Towards the end of the episode, as the facehugger is pinned down and killed, this genuinely affects Wendy on a neurological level. Even she doesn't understand why that is. And as she gets closer to it, it starts to hurt her even more. And she looks and feels visibly disgusted, as their neurological level connects to not only the facehugger, but the eggs in containment. So a lot of things are being shown, but nothing is being confirmed. That being, she might be a xenomorph queen hybrid. Who knows? And mind you, throughout this entire scene, as they are observing and studying the xenomorph egg, I genuinely perked up in my seat. Because something like this we have not seen at all, ever. Every single film related to Alien up until now has been trying to bring these xenomorph eggs, or xenomorphs in general, to Earth to study them. And now that we finally get that, we get to see it up close and personal, and fully understand and grasp what they're trying to do. At least this time it's not Weyland-Yutani, but instead Prodigy. Which truly makes you wonder, if they have all the data, and they have all this, why would they need more? Let alone, why isn't Prodigy ever mentioned in any other film? Is it because of their own demise? And whatever the case, something is bound to go wrong. And while it's not that big, literally and figuratively speaking, we finally get our first image of what comes out of a facehugger before it turns into an embryo. And what do they do with this little thing? They put it in Wendy's brother's lung to see what happens. Needless to say, it only goes downhill from here. So if you thought in the first 2 episodes shit was going wrong, this is where things genuinely get wrong. With Morrow trying to get back the samples that Prodigy stole by any means necessary. Prodigy now having the samples in order to study all this stuff, not knowing how any of it works even though they have a general idea based off of the data that was given by the ship, and each synthetic now having their own side story or their own ego to go off of, leading to either the greater good of Prodigy or the inevitable downfall that will probably happen towards the end of this season. Whatever the case, I can only tell you this much. Going forward, things are going to get even wilder.